Hello, and welcome to another edition of Economy. I'm Thomas Fox.
And I'm Nunzio Bruno.
And today we're going to be talking a little bit about financial literacy.
Right, so hopefully by the time this airs, it's still April.
Yes, April is National Financial Literacy Month.
So if you've been paying attention, hopefully in your Facebook streams or Twitter or any social media, you've been seeing little plugs for articles geared towards helping you be a better consumer of information and products relating to financial services.
You know, and I believe it was 2003, if I'm not mistaken, where the administration had, termed or dubbed April Financial Literacy Month. Mm-hmm. Don't hold me to the date, but it was the last decade or so that it happened. And the reason we don't do enough, at least in my industry is basically educating people about their financial choices. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you, at least from what I've seen throughout my career, we don't do enough to educate people about it. Home economics is more than making a bundt cake. Home economics is how do you manage your checkbook? How do I make good decisions, with my money?
That's absolutely
and
true.
Things like that. But we get away from that. In school, we put a lot of,
is that even still a thing now?
Home ec still exists. Now we teach. We have the No Child Left Behind, which made things a little difficult in the education community. If I try to go into a school now, years ago, where it was relatively easy for me to go in and teach financial literacy.
Yep.
There's less time for me to do it now. A lot of teachers have expressed that, we really can't get into financial literacy even though we'd love to.
Right.
We just can't because there's not enough time. We have to teach to the test. We have to teach to the test and teach to the test. So with some changes in No Child Left Behind and I think with the overall direction of the country since we've had the economic downturn, financial literacy is starting to be discussed again. However, not in the full context and not in the full breadth of how it really impacts all of our decisions. And I think the easiest way to really try and get financial literacy adopted is talking about the benefits of what it is to different stakeholders. What I mean by stakeholders is, your bank, there's your lending institutions beyond it, credit card companies and so on, but there's also your employer and there's also the community at large, and a lot of people don't have these conversations.
And your own emotional health, as well. If you're struggling to deal with these issues because of a lack of education or just, not knowing how to deal with the resources that you have available or not even knowing that they exist to engage them, that burden can weigh down on you as well.
Indeed, and you hit it right on the head. A lot of people don't realize what is available or just how much. Mm-hmm. Basically, we don't know. And that was a great, a couple of years ago, I developed a program with the USA Today and the Basketball Hall of Fame. And I had the opportunity to speak, to address a crowd, and it was me and JoJo White from Boston Celtics.
Right.
We were co-presenters. And he said something to the crowd that I really enjoyed. He said, you pay for what you don't know. And that is probably the most important thing I've heard about financial literacy in years. And I want to start off with my first group, businesses. And businesses, I'll talk to a business owner, and it's like, well, the bottom line, it's about the bottom line. It's always about the bottom line, and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, that's important. But I think some businesses fail to realize, and there was a great study done a couple of years ago, but the American businesses lose $210 billion each year as employees struggle to deal with personal financial issues. $210 billion a year in productivity is lost. And this, I think, was amazing to me is on average, 80% of people who are stressed about their financial situation spend anywhere from 12 to 20 hours each month at work dealing with their personal finance issues.
And that's a real cost. Human capital should never be discredited as far as being a resource. Your employees are the lifeblood of your business along with the customers. And if your employees are distracted or unable to produce at the level that you expect them to, that's absolutely going to have a drag on your financials. You're paying them salary whether they apparently are doing their job or not. And you'd hope that you want a happy, healthy environment for your employees to work in so that they want to be there, they want to be engaged. They're advocates for your brand and for your stakeholders.
Yeah, happy employees make all the difference in the world.
Oh yeah.
And I've seen some companies do some really good things, though. I recently got invited to the Proskauer Law Firm, which is in Boston, to do a presentation for their employees on financial literacy. Mm-hmm. There's a great group called SOFA, Society for Financial Awareness, which is at sofausa.org. And they're basically a group of financial professionals that go out and they do free seminars for businesses. They worked with NASA, they work with Grumman, Many institutions around the country, Hofstra University, they basically go in and they do lunch and learns. And it's no cost to anybody. And honestly, end of the day, you're making a very good investment for your employees by going in and letting someone give them the tools that they need, because they don't realize a lot of these tools are available. You could start to free up some of that pent-up nervousness. I mean, that's what people are dealing with. You know, we have to, and this is common too, and I know everybody out there has gone through this at one point in time, but when we're in the middle of financial or any kind of turmoil, be it financial, whatever it may be, we spend so much time focused on that. You know, you know, if you look at the Eckhart Tolle, I always mess up his name, but New Earth. You know, you have there's no sense in worrying about the past, because there's nothing you can do about it. It's already happened. There's no sense in worrying about the future because it hasn't happened yet. And there's so much that can really throw you off that you can't really focus on it. What you can worry about is this moment right here. But when you're sitting there in the midst of financial turmoil and you've got $25,000 in credit card debt, $50,000 in student loan debt, you know, your mortgage is falling behind, it's impossible to just worry about right now.
And that biggest group, even to add to that, I mean, while everyone suffers during a tough economy, but millennials right now are the biggest hit, anyone from 18 to roughly 39.
Yeah, very big, you know, challenges and things like that. So what really happens is when you, if you're able to create a new relationship with your money by really understanding all the resources that are available to you, you can change your outlook towards these financial issues and actually start to, you know, recover from them. You know, my organization, Cambridge Credit Counseling, we're a nonprofit organization. We talk to thousands of people every month who are struggling with their credit card debts, and we help them. You know, we give them that direction and the tools that they need. And there's tons of agencies like that across the country, nonprofit credit counseling agencies that can help out. You know, so if you're having difficulty there, have a conversation with somebody. Call a nonprofit agency. Go to your employer. Go to your human resource and say, listen, I'm not the only one struggling here with my bills and things like that. You know, maybe we should go out and get someone to come in and do a financial literacy course, a lunch and learn, or whatever it may be. And again, $210 billion a year is being lost in productivity to these issues. So if you're a small business owner, or even a big business owner, that's a dollar amount that should get your attention.
Well, even if you're not a business owner and, you know, you're just somebody managing your own financial situation, you know, if a quarter to half of your time is spent on that, just imagine the stress that you're exposing yourself to. So that's just something for you to internalize, you know, and think about yourself. Really, you want to reflect on how your relationship with money is. You know what I mean? You want to do those things that you talked about, but you also want to evaluate your own time.
Well, and the goal of all this is to make sure that your personal economy is on the mend. Right. You know, until we can hear all the stories in the world about the jobless numbers and this and that, and we're doing great. But if you're not doing great, it's almost irrelevant how everybody else is doing. You know, everybody's pain is personal, especially when it comes down to financial issues. But that's why it's important to reach out to somebody and get some help if you're struggling. You know, another issue, you know, that a lot of people kind of gloss over is poverty in America. You know, some of the statistics that come out over the last couple of years, you know, right now the nation's poverty rate has risen to 15.1%, or roughly 46 million people. It's the highest level since 1993. Of these people, 56.7% are between the ages of 18 and 54. And as it goes back to the point about you talking about millennials, there's so much struggling right now. You graduate college, you know, that used to be your I'm here world, I'm ready to go. You know, you got your cap and gown and you're out of here. Now, you're going back home. 85% of kids that graduate are moving back home with mom and dad. Beyond that, parents, let's say when, you know, your kid went away to school, you may have been making $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 a year. But now we have the issue of underemployment in our country, where people are making far less than they used to.
So sabbaticals.
Yeah. So what if you lost your job? You know, in between the time your son or daughter went to college, now you're making less money. They move back home. They've got a ton of debt. The average kid graduating college right now is $25,000 in student loan debt. They got another $3,000 or $4,000 in credit card debt, and their employment outlook does not look fantastic. So now they move back into your home. You're making $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 less a year. How are you going to support that? And that's a really big issue. And this is where this poverty is really pushing people.
Don't forget about the other side of that spectrum as well. It's not the same to try to live on, you know, Social Security anymore.
Oh,
you can't. You can't necessarily meet all of the requirements. It's supposed to be, you know, one of the legs of that three-legged stool, right? Savings, investments, and then Social Security. Yeah,
Social Security was never meant to be your support system throughout. It was meant to be Like you said, it's meant to be one facet of your overall plan, but a lot of people, those plans have gone away. You know, I think it's 45% of baby boomers right now have no money saved for retirement,
Right,
and that's
because they had to
huge amount of people right there.
use that, tap it as an instant resource to just stay afloat.
Yeah, I mean, I know plenty of people that, before, I mean, 10 years ago, if you want to take money out of your 401k, I mean, you'd have to give, a blood sample and you have to meet with the Kremlin. Or, now it's, you basically sneeze and they'll give you all your money out of your 401k.
Oh, they'll charge you for it, though.
They will charge you for it, but you can clean it out now, where in the past you had to either be buying a home or show, education, you had to show, strict hardship or something like that now for anything. And people have been using these as their own candy stores. You're taking from tomorrow to fund today, and that's not always the best option, especially, we're living longer than we've had before. So we have challenges, and this is where financial literacy is really important. Understanding about how your actions with your money affect every aspect of your life. How it affects you right now. You take your money from your 401k, it's taxable income.
Right.
Then how it's going to affect you in the future. You don't have that money for retirement.
No time value of money benefits there, no savings.
Yeah, so I mean, it's tough, but
And it goes beyond, just to add a quick point, financial literacy goes beyond just understanding how the relationship you have with your money, but it's also to help you be a better, more savvy consumer, right? So that you're understanding, all the language that's in credit card applications, for instance, or what your bank says when they offer you a 3% APY CD, right, for that locked time deposit.
Yeah, it gives you the wherewithal to make informed financial decisions.
Right.
And that's the best thing that you can do. I mean, listen. You mentioned credit card. Credit card applications are on the rise again. They were up 69% in the first quarter of 2011. They're projected to go even higher this year. I've been hearing more and more about banks who are ready to, quote unquote, unleash the, release the Kraken when it comes to credit card debt. They're ready to go out there and lending again. But if we don't be mindful of if we're not mindful of the way we got in this financial situation in the first place, we're only going to wind up back in it. By any time, at least my definition there basically is no failure in life. There's plenty of opportunities to learn, but there really is no failure. You do fail, though, however, when you choose not to take the lessons of this learning opportunity, such as a down economy and things like that, and then you don't apply it. So unfortunately, we're going to see some people get back in trouble again with credit cards and things like that, simply because we didn't look better at our situation. We just dealt with the situation, oh, my finances are in trouble, not really looking at when things come back, how do I structure myself so I don't get in this situation again? And
to even add to that, it's about, you want to be honest with yourself about managing expectations, right? When we talk about financial literacy, a big part of that is what kind of expectations you have for, job prospects, whether you're working currently or looking for career advancement, savings, and spending plans. I mean, so that you don't hopefully snowball yourself into a tough spot again.
No, indeed. I mean, and even some other things that, with the housing crisis. I mean, a lot of people took on homes simply because they didn't understand they had much more home than they could afford. They were sitting across from somebody who was really looking to make a buck and get out of there, in many instances, not all. But a lot of people left holding the bag, and we've seen the foreclosure crisis, 1 million plus foreclosures every year. This year is going to be 1.5 million, maybe they're saying. So it's a challenge. And probably one of the biggest things I want to point out with financial literacy that we don't talk a lot about is high school and how that impacts high school graduation. Just to paint a quick picture here, each year's class of dropouts will cost the country over $200 billion during their lifetimes in lost earnings and unrealized tax revenue. A high school dropout over time, on average, earns about $260,000 less than a high school graduate and contributes about $60,000 less in taxes. And here's what I really thought was interesting. In today's workplace, only 40% of adults who dropped out of high school are employed, compared with 60% of adults who completed high school and 80% of those with a bachelor's degree. Financial literacy comes down to your path in life and really where you want to go. Is the investment in college important? I think so. There'll be arguments back and forth, but financial literacy is understanding about your choices, your future, and how to put that plan together. For more on financial literacy and things like that, you can always visit financiallydigital.com.
Oh, thank you.
It's a great blog over there that gives you a lot of insight. Also, look us up on Twitter at
Economy Show.
And on the Facebook.
At Economy Show also.
Economy Show, too.
But use the internet, seriously, that was going to be my little wrap up. There's a whole bunch of resources out there. You can search by geographic location, throw your zip code in, and see what's around you. And conversations are free to have. So if you have questions, feel free to give somebody a call.
Indeed. Well, listen, thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks.